in terms of criminality, but everything else seems to be more of a mission of trying to provide more transparency for the American people.
I see it very much as a messaging operation by the Republican Party. Now, that is something that both parties engage in, of course. You try to keep the spotlight on topics that are more politically advantageous to your side and keep it off topics that are more politically advantageous to the other side. In this particular instance, I think that it is really a mechanism to keep Biden's cognitive state in the news and to keep people talking about it, and it by its very nature puts Democrats in an awkward position because you don't really want to talk about the topic because you don't I'm talking here about elected officials in the Democratic Party. They don't really want to just lay into Biden in a way that I think feels gratuitous at this point, but they also don't want him to be the face of their party now that he's out of office and they're trying to find a future face of the party. So all of that, I think, is really where this is coming from. There are other debates in the minutiae about using the auto pen. The Department of Justice during George W. Bush's administration looked into, whether it was fully legal, and they concluded that it was. In terms of pardons, I was intrigued to find out during my own research there was a memo back in 1929 from the US Solicitor General saying that pardons don't even have to necessarily need to be signed by the president. So that, and there is some suggestion that a president could theoretically pardon people in secret and never state it publicly. But in any event, the point here is that I think we're in messaging wars where the GOP is trying to keep the focus on Biden's age.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it's obviously politically advantageous for Republicans. And I'm very curious to hear what some of these Biden aides do say in testimony, because there's been some conflicting public reporting about what they actually believe about Biden's cognitive decline. For example, Ron Klain was quoted in a book as saying that Biden was disappearing during debate prep. He was falling asleep by the pool and appeared frequently confused and unable to follow some of the lines of questioning that he was receiving. But then later on, when he was asked about those comments, he sort of backtracked a bit, saying to Politico, "My point wasn't that the president lacked mental acuity. He was out of it because he had been sidelined, not because he lacked capacity." Some of the other advisors who are agreeing to these voluntary testimonies are Neera Tanden, who's known Biden for at least 20 years. So she would have potentially some insight as to whether he lost a step in his later years in office. And then Anthony Bernal and Annie Tomasini were called because they were cited in Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's book as part of the Politburo that surrounded Joe Biden and were in charge of basically keeping him sheltered from other members of the administration so as to prevent too many people from knowing about what was happening with his mental acuity. One of the individuals who has not been called yet, who Dr. Ronnie Jackson, member of Congress, suggested to us they should call, is the White House staff secretary. He said, quote, "The staff secretary handles every piece of paper that goes in and out of the Oval Office and everything that has the president's signature on it. So we'll see if Republicans heed his advice and add that to the list of witnesses."
Yeah, I mean, Ronnie Johnson's an extremely controversial figure, as you know, but a member of Congress, if he wants to call for that, he's welcome to call for it. In relation to the people testifying, a couple of things. One is, I just think as a abstract matter, this will be an interesting test of what people tell authors and what they tell Congress under oath, and that is always an interesting issue. Also, before our audience gets too excited about this forthcoming testimony from this quartet, my understanding is they're testifying in private, but the transcripts will be released, so these will not be huge, televised set pieces in that sense.
Right, and then we also have to wait for the date of Dr. Kevin O'Connor because he has not agreed to voluntary testimony. He's being subpoenaed by House Oversight. So unclear if he'll comply with the subpoena or if they will, if they'll have to perhaps pursue some kind of criminal charge if he defies it.
We shall see what happens there. And meanwhile, up next, the Trump administration is positive about the new US-China trade deal framework. But is that really sealed? We'll talk about it next on Rise.